Hi there, I'm James Osborne, the co-founder of the Recruitment Network, and this is the TRN Podcast. Every week, we unpack the strategies, the technologies, the processes and mindsets fueling today's top-performing recruitment agencies. We take a look behind the scenes of some great recruitment businesses. We listen to the real-life stories of those who have built those businesses, and we learn from some of the industry's greatest thought leaders to help you become both future fit and future relevant. So let's begin with this next episode of the TRN Podcast. So today we've invited on Bobby Banerjee. Bobby, do you want to just give a quick intro to who you are, actually, first of all, just before we kick off?
Yeah, totally. So funny enough, I've got it on the slides anyway, but I'm a recruitment trainer, coach, and been a TRN partner. And funny enough, I've been a partner of other groups, but TRN's the one that I've stuck with because I just love it, and I think that there's a lot going on there. I've been working in the background with TRN on lots of learning and development stuff that they do, and so it's just been loads of fun being part of it.
Fantastic, super. Thank you, Bobby. So what we're going to do today, everyone, we're going to be focusing on talking about LinkedIn. Is obviously, as a recruiter in a recruiter's toolkit, we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Sometimes a lot of time being distracted on LinkedIn, if we're brutally honest about it. So we thought we'd have a bit of a chat today around LinkedIn. How do you master LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. I've got lots of ideas around it. Bobby's got lots of ideas he's going to share with you as well. If you've got any questions as we go, by the way, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and we'll make sure we answer those questions as we go today. It could be on absolutely anything to do with the subject we're talking about today, or a little bit left field if you want to as well. And the way we're going to conduct it is I'm going to get Bobby to sort of put together a bit of I'll run through a little bit of a sort of a slide deck that he's put together, and we'll pick up as we go. I might interject as you go, if that's right, Bobby, and share some thoughts and some ideas, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, totally. Hopefully it won't be too much death by PowerPoint, but can people see my screen?
Yeah, we can. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Fantastic. So yeah, one of the kind of key challenges that I feel is that you're right. We can get doom scrolling. We can use, we're supposed to be on LinkedIn as recruiters, but we don't necessarily get the most out of it. So my job today is essentially giving you guys a few ideas as to how to get the most out of LinkedIn. And so as James quite rightly alluded to, who the hell is this guy that you're speaking to? And so I'm a TRN Gold partner, and longtime friend of James's personally, but also of TRN as a network, because it's just a great network to be part of if you're looking to scale and grow. But yeah, I've been a recruitment trainer and coach for the past 8-9 years, and my key thing at the moment is making sure that recruitment companies, which sits into James's future fit vision, but are able to differentiate and stand out in this crowded, volatile, uncertain marketplace that we find ourselves in. And so what we're going to be covering today, hopefully it'll be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but certainly we'll try and cover as many of these points as we can in the next 40 or so minutes with James. But looking at tools that you can do to optimize your profile and make sure that you're attracting candidates and clients to you. We look at the searches that we can conduct, and get a bit more out of that, and can talk through a little bit about X-ray searching for those people that don't have the premium licenses, and there's ways and means around getting lots of searches if you don't have that particular, the Recruiter Lite Sales Nav or Recruiter functionality. I'm sure James and I will probably talk ad nauseum around content and branding, and around how do we build credibility, but more importantly, how do we generate inbound leads? And there's lots of weird and wonderful things you can do around that, and also create a little strategy for you guys to stick to every day for outreach, for connections, and better response rates. So yeah, I'll happily get started if that's okay. So for you guys, more importantly, it's about more placements, creating better conversation, creating community. I think people, certainly recruitment businesses that are embracing the idea of creating community and creating an opportunity for their LinkedIn networks to be a place to share advice and opinions, as well as being able to place candidates. That's what's going to set, that's what's setting people apart right now. And we could talk a little bit about that. And I'm sure James and I could probably talk about creating communities, because we've both been able to do that. Me very recently, and you over the last, God, how many years?
Far too long.
But then we'll talk about better response rates, and like I say, giving yourself some smarter tools to really make the most out of LinkedIn. So to get started, I don't know, obviously I don't know anything about the guys that are on this, but I'm sure you'll fall into one of these four categories. You've either got the free LinkedIn license, the Sales Navigator, Recruiter Lite, or LinkedIn Recruiter, and there are good and bad points of all of them. And I think certainly, you know, James, from your experience and the members that you're dealing with, have you seen any kind of good traits and bad traits? And what are people using lots? And what
But
advice do you give them?
yeah, it's really interesting actually. But I mean, we had a conversation with one of the members the other day, and what they've got 60 consultants within their business. They've actually reduced their LinkedIn paid licenses from 60 down to 0. So basically, they've identified different ways using other tech, using AI, etc., to where you can actually use the free LinkedIn license to get all the benefits that you want to be able to get, to build a community, to build rapport, to create content, etc., without having to pay for the full licenses and etc. So we're seeing a shift at the moment, and I think one of the realities is that we spend a lot of money on LinkedIn, a hell of a lot of time and money on LinkedIn sort of stuff, and for some businesses, it's quite a hefty fee to take each month. So I think we're seeing a shift more back towards actually free LinkedIn licenses, but using technology in different ways to support that, which I find quite
Perfect.
fascinating.
Well, yeah, so I'll talk about a little bridge for that then, if people are thinking about how they reduce their costs, because I used to, so back in my day, oh God, I'm going to get the flat cap out in a minute. But you know, when I was a recruiter, my company, because S3 were very good at lots of things, they didn't want to pay out on LinkedIn licenses. We had one LinkedIn recruiter laptop, and you had to just pretend to be that person. So we had to get creative, and so I heavily went into X-ray searching, which I can show the parameters of as a little part of this if we need to. But yeah, I mean, obviously those costs are for single user licenses, but obviously there are economies of scale. Look, I'm not affiliated to LinkedIn in any way, shape, or form. I'm just being a kind of a conscientious observer of what they do and how they operate. So there are good points and bad parts, but I'm hopefully going to give you an overview of that. But here are some really quick things that you guys can do straight away to get the most out of your get the most out of your profile. So first and foremost, your banner. You know, if your banner is you know, has branding on it, but more importantly, tells people what you do, because that's a really big part of what people see when they first see your profile. So if it's eye-catching, colorful, but informative, that's always a good starting point. Hopefully, I don't need to say get a profile picture, because you know, if they don't, you know, if people can't see who you are, they're not going to respond to you in the nicest possible sense. Other little things that you could do are include make your public URL easy to type or remember. You know, so mine is my name, Bobby Banerjee, nice and easy. But you know, obviously, it can be lots of alphanumeric code. You can get rid of that and make sure you know, you can change that to something that will help you. You know, the call to action button, you could create a call to action about booking some time with you as a candidate or client that I can happily, again, you know, it's, if you go through, as you can see on here, you've got the edit function. If you go through on that, then you can actually create a call to action button that means that people can book in time either using your Calendly, Microsoft Bookings, or lots of exciting things around that. And also, yeah, have a value oriented headline. So just saying recruiter at company isn't really going to help. It's actually how do you add value to the people in your market, and can you get that across in the best part of 40 to 60 characters, because those 40 to 60 characters are what's going to be seen when you add people to your LinkedIn. And then finally on this page, yeah, looking down here, who your viewers also viewed, great for finding other candidates and clients in markets. So usually, you know, if it would put my colleagues there, it would put my managers, whoever was in there would go into the who your viewers also viewed aspect. Sorry, I've been ranting for the best part of 3 or 4 minutes. James, is there any bits and pieces that you would add on that?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of things really. I've got a checklist down here. I'm looking down at my other computer here. And I've got a checklist of stuff. One of the quick wins that everyone has to do is just make sure you've checked your settings. It's like a ridiculous thing to say, but so many recruiters' settings on their LinkedIn licenses are incorrect. So looking at things like your profile visibility, your profile picture visibility, your page visit visibility, email address visibility, they're all in the back end on the settings, but you've got to set these things so it's easy for people to be able to find you. I'll send through to anybody on the call today, and obviously my team here, Caelan's here listening in today. If any of you would like a copy of my checklist, just give us a thumbs up in the chat or something, and I'll send you through a checklist of all the visibility settings that you want to have on LinkedIn to make sure your profile get seen, and all the different parts of your profile get seen as well. So we'll ping that across to everyone who gives us a thumbs up afterwards, and we'll make sure you've got that. The other thing I will say, and I always say this to everyone, is just make it really, really easy for people to be able to contact you. The amount of times I've gone into a recruiter's profile and you can't find their mobile phone number or their email address, and it's just like, you want to be really, really easy to be able to be contacted. So in some cases, they've got it in their banner. They've certainly got it in their contact information. Sometimes they've even got it in their header. So it's just, don't worry about getting spam. Instead, be obsessed about making it easy for people to be able to contact you. So your contact details everywhere. So there'll be my two immediate things to say is contact details, and those settings on your profile is really important.
Love that. Because yeah, other bits and pieces that people might want to consider. Like I say, first thing I'd say to you is update your headline and summary today. Make sure that you talk about the return on investment that you provide to your candidates, to your clients, because that's what they really give a damn about. What we generally say is we'll put our stuff. We've been in recruitment for X amount of years. No one cares. It's about the results we achieve. And it's funny enough, in the training that I deliver to recruiters, thinking about their candidates, it's all about the return on investment that they need to look at for their people. So make sure that reflects in what you're saying. And yeah, funny enough, it wasn't meant to be a TRN event, but yeah, make your featured posts about things that actually make sense to you, and not just the posts that get the most likes. Because I want people to see that I'm a trainer, coach. I do large scale training events. I talk about BD, and that needs to come across in the profile that you have. So make sure that you're, once if on your featured posts, again using the edit function, make sure that you get 2 or 3, or I think it's up to 5 of the best posts that represent you and what you are about in the marketplace. Yeah, and finally, have a bunch of testimonials. If you haven't already, please make sure that you're getting testimonials from your candidates and your clients, because people will read them to understand how you are and how you operate as a recruiter in the marketplace. It sounds really simple, but just making sure that you've got a good stack of candidates and clients that can say a 360 kind of version of your service is really powerful in this case. Cool. Any other thoughts on profiles before I move on?
No, that's good. I like that.
Wonderful. Cool. So there are, so people have generally tend to ask, and funny enough, I know it's a really basic function, but people do ask about how to use Boolean on LinkedIn Recruiter, LinkedIn Recruiter Lite. So make sure that you're using most of these particular phrases, and I'm not gonna labor the point with the first 4, but certainly the quotes, or certainly the brackets and the wildcards are really important. So wildcards are available to use in LinkedIn Recruiter, and so if you have something like recruit, as we've got there, it also will return people who say recruit, recruiting, recruitment, and also it allows for people who have made spelling mistakes, because I'm not going to vilify candidates if I'm finding them and they might have spelled recruitment wrong. And it's okay, because we have neurodivergent people, we've got people with dyslexia, dyspraxia, all of these things, and I want to catch as many of these people as humanly possible, because it's a bit like Steve, I've read your point there about working properly. I can show you some ways in which you can make it work, because some parts do and some parts don't. There are just a few tweaks that need to be made. I just haven't got the time to do it all on this particular one. But what I do want to kind of dwell on, if I can get my so something that I was, if you don't have a LinkedIn license, this is very sorry, a paid LinkedIn license. This can be a really easy way of being able to find LinkedIn profiles very quickly. So I'm just going to put James, give me a job title, any old job title.
Fractional sales director.
Cool. So sales director, yeah, or sales senior manager, sales manager. I'll go for that. Any particular location?
London.
Let's go for London, and you said fractional. Any particular sector that they need to have been in?
No, tech. Let's go tech.
Okay. Actually, I'll keep it fairly open for that one. So what this can then do is it scrapes LinkedIn for people with those particular profiles. So looking at, and the best part is it allows you where your free LinkedIn license will only allow you to look at page 2 on the list of people. This will allow you to go a bit further and go into, so you can actually go into page 6 and be able to find lots more people in your market fairly quickly. But more importantly, it promotes a really good behavior in LinkedIn terms of being able to add people before you speak to them. Because LinkedIn wants you to create community, and every time I speak to LinkedIn headquarters, it's all about trying to create community. So if you can get to a point where you're adding lots more people to your network, that can be a really easy way of finding things.
And Bobby, just so everyone knows, what was the
Yeah.
tool that you used then to help you
Yeah,
with that?
so it's an X-ray search called Recruitum. I'll get it back up one sec. So yeah, it's a weirdly it's called Recruitum, but the URL is recruiting.net.
Okay.
But I've been using this for, well, the majority of my LinkedIn, my recruitment career. So I was finding niche DevOps engineers in Cambridge back 11, 12 years ago, and it wasn't necessarily a thing at that point. So this allowed me to find everyone that was a LinkedIn sysadmin with a bit of coding. So you can actually change it to put in the codes that So for example, if I wanted to have, I don't know, AWS, Python, if I could spell Python right.
Hmm.
And I could put DevOps engineer or site reliability. Cool. And so yeah, if I was to just change that search that quickly, it can then find me people with kind of DevOps engineers with AWS and Python experience, and it can help me delve that little bit deeper into what other bits and pieces they
Perfect.
have, and then can literally go into Venkata's profile here, and then be able to drop him a message if once it allows me to. So you do
Yeah.
have exactly the same functionality, but without any of the cost.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you. That's useful.
Cool. So obviously then the next thing is about what do we actually say to these people. So what I'm noticing more and more, and I've done rumbles where I've had to change this behavior in recruitment consultants around the generic outreach that we're looking at the moment. So in this marketplace that we find ourselves in, it is talent short, and therefore and it's volatile and uncertain, and all the all those particular characteristics. There's lots of things that we see in the news that are going on that are making people more and more uncertain about whether to move or not. So your outreach has really got to prize people out of their current roles. And one question that I like to kind of pose to recruiters of all ages and types is your content that you're going to put out there, your message that you're going to give, make someone want to move from the relative safety of their current position into a new one. Obviously, for contracts and temp, it's ever so slightly different. But if you're looking at perm market, you've got to make sure that if you are trying to price someone away from a particular company, because there's lots of reasons to stay at the moment, um, that you've got the right ideas for them. And so you've got to really think about what makes your content stand out. And looking at some of the stuff that's out there is, it's got to be relatable. So it makes sure you've got to feel like it was written for them without being hyper personalized. I think if you try and use the syntactical stuff that's out there on things like Dripify, and there's lots of tools out there that can help you. And I'm sure James will talk through kind of things like DuckSoup, and a couple of the other partners that are
Hmm.
involved in the world of LinkedIn lead generation. um, make sure that it was written for them, but it's not overly done. It's a bit like a good steak. You want it cooked a bit, but you don't want it overdone. Um, it's got to be useful. So, does it give them some insight, some data, some analysis that they might not have considered before? Things like salary surveys are being more and more commonplace, but actually, did they know that they're one of 20, only 25 Java developers that we have been able to find in the Preston area? And actually, what does that mean for them? And how does that change their job market that they're operating in, or whatever that looks like? So just give them tools and ideas to go, oh, I've never thought of that. Maybe I want to have a chat with this person. And then, yeah, the credibility piece. So making sure that you've got testimonials, people have said good things about the work that you have done, but also how you can show credibility through, again, the data insight and analysis that you can give. I know I'm probably laboring the point from James's perspective, because I know that James loves to talk about making sure that data insight is what you're giving, because we're consultants at the end of the day, and consultants use data insight and analysis and their intelligence to be able to help businesses make decisions. And so if we can get lots more of our content to go around that, that's what I'd want to. And James, I know you've got got a few thoughts on this, so I thought I'll let you come in at
Are
this
you
point.
suggesting I'm opinionated at this stage in this? So the no, I think it's really interesting. A lot of the time, the reason why people get stopped a little bit on LinkedIn is they don't quite know where to start. They don't quite know what content to utilize, or what they should be talking about, etc. You don't need to try and figure this out yourself. You can actually use this cheat sheet ways of identifying this. So, for example, if I want to sort of create some content, or I want to put some stuff out that's going to be really relevant and high quality, I'm going to find out what everybody else is already talking about, and what the stuff is getting the biggest traction, the biggest conversions, the content that the algorithms are enjoying the most. And you can do that through either, you can build a GPT through an AI, a chat GPT, to do that for you, to scrape what are the most searched, what are the most read bits of content or headlines at the moment on a particular subject. Or you can use LinkedIn's today's news and views section to find out what are some of the most popular topics, etc. So you don't need to try and reinvent the wheel every time. You can actually piggyback on what the algorithms are actually loving, and then go for that, basically, because we know that sort of stuff works as much as anything else. The second piece, and I think this is the bit that you sort of touched on, is for me, creating content, posting content, sharing content, insights, whether it be an in-reach or whether it just be a post. A lot of it is about adding value. It's about how much value can you add to your target demographic, to your target audience. Our audience have had enough of being spammed with lots of random pictures of babies and dogs and sheep and whatever else you're showing pictures with, etc. Which, yes, they do get likes and they do get eyes, but not from the right people. There's a big difference. And we want to remember with LinkedIn, there's a difference between the vanity metrics about how many views and followers and likes you're getting, which is a lot of people what they sell, and the sanity metrics of how much actually converts. And that's a really, really important part of this. So have a look at what people are talking about, and then create content that is adding value to your audience, as much as anything else.
I was working with a marketing director friend of mine, and he was talking about essentially what people do on LinkedIn is they try and create content to be seen and to be heard, but not content to create actions and create leads. So
Yeah.
a lot of us are making content that gets people aware of us. And I'll happily show a piece of content that I've put out this morning that is designed only to get awareness. But funny enough, the conversations that you can get off the back of it are really interesting. But sorry, can you see a Google Alerts screen there? I'm
Yep.
just, yeah. So you were saying about creating content. So one of the things that you can do is almost, get Google to find the content that makes sense for you. So for example, if I want to talk about, I don't know, cybersecurity, I can get Google to aggregate and essentially get loads of content that can then also, I can create an alert that will be delivered to my inbox. So you've actually got ways and means to get content straight to you. You can take this content and go, right, okay, how can I read it? How can I analyze it? How can I make it work? So there's loads of little things that you can do to generate better, more meaningful content. Because remember, your content is only really supposed to be for the candidates and clients in your network. It's not really for the other recruiters. Sure,
Agreed.
so thinking about who your audience is. So I wouldn't be that bothered about whether I'm getting as many likes or comments, but am I getting impressions? Am I getting eyeballs? And we'll talk about what kind of content works. But there's also really easy ChatGPT prompts that you can create around this. I would say, are we all right to go into this? I'm conscious of time.
Yeah, go for it. Go
Yeah.
for it. Go for it.
So I want you to act like a. Oh my God, this is pressure trying to type it as a act like a social. Oh my God, media specialist. So whenever I write a LinkedIn prompt, and I know, or a Chat GPT prompt, I always want it to think in a particular mindset. I am a
Just as you're writing it out,
yeah.
carry on
Thank you.
writing, Bobby. And for those of you listening in, an easier way of doing this, if you're using ChatGPT, is to go and build a bunch of clones on your
Yes.
ChatGPT. So, Bobby, carry on typing. Shh, focus. I'm trying to fill in the gap here for you. So when you're using ChatGPT, if you go on to create a clone, and you can set up a clone, which is your clone number one is your social media specialist clone. And then every time you want to write some content, you use that clone to write the content for you. in the same way, if you want to create one which is creating an email outreach campaign, you have your email outreach clone, and you train it and teach it on the types of content, the style, the approach, etc. that you want. So every time you use it, it automatically creates the content in that way for you. So just as an idea, just as as Bobby's doing this, oh, Bobby's done it. Great, go on, Karen.
Yeah, no, fine. I've kind of taken a bit of a shortcut here, because the one thing I would say to you guys, whenever you're writing AI, AI generative comments to prompts to get attention. Also, I put, so can we brainstorm some ideas, or very quickly brainstormed it. But also I'd also ask it to ask me questions. So as you quite rightly talk about the clone, get your generative AI to ask you questions about what content you want to put out and how you want it to approach things, because then it gets you asking the right questions. But just really quickly, they've obviously, they're obviously they've given some ideas here, and the best part is they're ideas. Don't copy, paste, and send out your content as is from ChatGPT, because people are starting to realize it. The long dashes, the overuse of the rocket emoji, and language that people aren't using. And you can, one of the things that I know TRN do really well is get recruiters in that network to create a clone of themselves,
Yeah,
and get and they talk through that in in depth to make sure that happens. So yeah, there's lots of different ways, because I noticed someone said I really struggled to create content. This is an easy way to then start looking at those ideas, to then develop them out to create that content that works. And then
perfect.
off the back of that, I use so again, I'm really opening the kimono on what I do, but I can, I use this thing which is completely free called Buffer. And what it does, so as you can see, I've got a post that's going to be going out in 2 hours' time. So you guys are getting a sneak peek of my content of when it's coming out. For the free version of this, actually allows you to queue up 10 posts over 3 channels. So I have my business's channel, my personal LinkedIn, and I also do something called the Recruitment Curry Club, which I post as a social media person for. And so if I can then segregate my posts into those 3 channels, and best part is, I've also got, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not very good at creating content right away. I've got to think about it. I've got to develop it out. So here are some drafts that I'm creating, and funny enough, there's some bits that have got lots of stuff in, lots of bits that haven't, but then I can build those out to then queue and put out in my social media feed. So if you're thinking about how you go about it, and creating the right times, these are the things that you might want to consider.
Perfect. Can I just quickly jump in there? So a
Go for
couple
it.
of things. For those of you listening in, we've got some really cool example GPT cheat sheets that we've prompts that we've already created. And also on our social scaling program, I've actually created a whole outreach campaign flow for you to follow. So again, if any of you want a copy of that, just give me a sort of, I don't know what you do on these things, like a thumbs up or a like, or
Can
just
I
please.
can I do that?
Yeah,
Can I have it?
yeah, of course you can. You can all have it. I was understand, and we'll make sure we get that sent out to you. And what we've done is with that is we've actually utilised ChatGPT as part of that process. So you basically write a GPT for your market, put it in, it then builds something, then you add another GPT to it. It's all been mapped out for you. So I'll ping it across to everyone. Make sure you've got a copy of that. It's really, really effective. It works really, really well. The second thing is, and this was to Kamar's question around not coming across cringy in trying to write content. I think you're in the renewable energy sector. Another really clever way of creating content really quickly is if you go to YouTube and look at some really cool YouTube videos. So it could be introductions, could be interviews with people, etc., etc. If you go to the transcript button and go to the transcript of a YouTube video, copy the transcript, and then push that into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to then create content off the back of that. It's an incredibly quick way to create really meaningful content that comes out of YouTube content and YouTube videos, etc. So highly recommend giving that one a go as well. Kamal, that's not a tip for you there. And then the third thing I was just going to mention, and you just sort of touched a little bit on what you just said, Bobby, is that when you're scheduling stuff, if you're using Buffer or whatever, the key to content is one of the algorithms is all about the timing. So don't post content on social media or your outreach at a time that fits and works best for you. Do it at the time, which is what we refer to as the golden hours, when you get the biggest conversions on the algorithms. And again, if you need help with that, we'll share some ideas and information about how to find out your golden hours. But I know if I post something out at a certain time of the day, it can go viral, get 2, 3, 4, 5 million views. If I had exactly the same post and posted at a different time of the day, I could get like 5 eyes on it, and that's about it. So it's not always the quality of your content. Sometimes it's just about the timing as well, which helps you with that.
So yeah, that leads us to the what type of content, because I think some of it. So I will speak to so Ovi. I think is that so. Isn't Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, or Abacus better at writing content than ChatGPT? Actually, I would probably say that ChatGPT is good for brainstorming and ideas, but for actually writing your content in a way that would speak more to your language. Again, you could create your own clone in ChatGPT that speaks to your language, tone of voice, and that kind of thing. But also, yeah, I'd probably say as a baseline, Claude was a lot better personally and they're all free, so it doesn't really matter. But I found Claude better than ChatGPT for creating more human feel content. So yeah, as I say, I'm just using ChatGPT because it's what all everyone knows, but other generative AIs are available.
Yeah, and Ovi, just to let you know that the best way to work it out for your market is to do A/B testing.
Yeah.
So take a prompt, stick it into ChatGPT, Claude, different types of different versions of ChatGPT, run it, see what the results are, compare which ones you get the best results out of, and then use that content because it's different each time. So depending on your marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm using Claude for a recruitment test I'm creating, which has been so much better than ChatGPT at creating that. But it depends on what functionality you want to use certain things for.
Yeah, and
But
and and
content,
and, and Grok, as you mentioned, of it as well, is
yes.
also one of the new ones. Although that's owned by Elon Musk, and I don't support that. I
I
said
didn't
that in
realize.
public. Here we go.
There you go. You could
Don't
have
buy,
you could you could have lost. Hey, you got a heart. You got a heart just for that comment. So who knew?
don't buy Tesla.
Um,
Here we go. Right, carry
but
on.
uh, but yeah. So what type of content stands out? So there are lots of different ways in depending on what you want to do to allow your content to stand out. As James already alluded to, the timing is really important, but also the strength of what you have to say. So if I, so if we look at the content that you might want to create, they generally tend to fall into three different categories. Number one, what do they say about you as a recruiter in the marketplace? And that could be a little bit on the personal side, but allowing for your personal but professional side to come through. Because, funnily enough, we all have personal lives, and people want to know the person behind the recruitment, and that's absolutely fine. But making sure, if you're just making it about, oh, I had a cup of tea, like no one cares. But if you're gonna say, well, actually, I did this, so for example, I love going hiking, and so I'm going to be doing a charity event that's around hiking. So obviously that I'd be putting out on social media because it says a little bit about me, but also says about the charity work that I want to do. Um, if you're thinking about the content that you really want to create, it's like I said, it's about understanding the problems and challenges of the people in your market right now and creating content that speaks to them. So obviously my market is recruitment consultants, and so I will be creating my content that's just for recruitment consultants. It wouldn't and potentially around how people hire and that kind of thing. But as far as your content goes, it's just about hitting those three things. What does it say about you as a recruiter? What can people do to know, like, and trust who you are? And what kind of things would make people actually want to engage with you, whether it's over direct messages, dropping an email, comments, all those kind of things mean more to me than a post that has a fair few likes and a couple of 100,000 views. It's about who actually engages off the back of it. And I know, James, from your experience, you've probably had millions of views on various things. It's like, well, why have I bothered?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hold my tongue here a little bit. Go
No,
on.
cool. No, well, I'd rather you didn't. Let's argue.
No, not gonna argue. Carry on. You carry on. I'll argue in a
But
minute.
but yes, if you can, but the idea is anything that is going to help your candidates and clients in your marketplace be able to make decisions, and those decisions are to work with you. Um, yeah, I mean, thank you, Ovi, for the don't post at 3 a.m. because your audience doesn't do night shifts. But if you're working in an American market, as an example, understand the times of day that these people are more than likely to actually be spending their eyeballs looking at your content. So, like I said, I'm not really that bothered about what you put out as long as it's professional and has that level of value to it. But but as long as it works at timeframes that work, and like I say, reach out to James about the algorithms and when the golden hours are, because they keep changing, and they keep changing for different markets and different times. And so it's very useful to have that resource available that James and the TRN team have. James, what
And
content do you think stands out?
Well, let's just go to, without me getting on my soapbox a little bit. If you want to produce content at all, everybody on this call must, before you do anything, is go and build out an ICP or a customer avatar.
Yeah.
Ideal ICP, ideal customer profile, or an avatar, which basically is a description or a summary of the person that you are trying to target, and identifies the language, the tone of voice, the content they're looking for, what hashtags do they search for, where do they go to get their information, etc., etc. You need to understand and build out your avatars first before you create any content, and your entire content plan should align to that. So again, going back into, once you've created your avatars, you upload that into your Chat GPT. So every time Chat GPT or Claude or whatever you're using is pulling content for you, it's talking directly back to your avatars first and foremost. Again, if any of you want a copy of some example avatars or ICPs, I can send some across to you, do the like thing again or whatever, and we'll ping those across to you. But then you plug that into Chat GPT or into your AI. So then every single time you're writing content, every time you're doing an outreach or whatever it might be, it's basically talking to your customer avatar. So you do that once, the heavy lifting's done, and it just transforms the outreach and the quality of the content. So what content stands out? To me, it's content that is aligned to your avatar, the person you're targeting. Sounds like an obvious thing to say, but actually really, really bloody effective. The other thing, I'll just go back onto it. I just will quickly touch on this. And I said this already, I'm going to say it again. Just please don't get confused between the vanity and the sanity metrics on social media and LinkedIn and everything else. I honestly don't give a damn how many eyeballs, how many views and likes you get on your content. What I care about, the people who are looking and viewing and liking your content, are they in your target demographic? Are they people who are going to be buying from you?
That's what I was going to just come on to, funnily enough.
Nice.
Because yeah, so here is for example, I'll just use my last post, which was, yeah, I mean, I've been posting about a personal journey that I've been on of health, over the last year or so. But more importantly, I wanted to get an idea of getting people to get themselves checked for lumps and bumps because of what they could turn into. So if I look at this post, what I really want to look at is not the 8,000 impressions, but like you quite rightly said, who they are. So you can click into any post and actually see who what the demographics are of people that are looking at your content. And this information is possibly more valuable to you than anything else. And and like I say, I'm just using the free version, but it's about creating stuff that gets people talking. And so I wanted to highlight a couple of differences in some of the posts that I've had, because my numbers are probably very different to James's, because James's are probably in the hundreds of thousands of views every post, whereas mine are in the thousands and hundreds. So if I go back on some of the posts that I've created, in all honesty, some of the worst performing vanity posts, which are really interesting, vanity posts don't necessarily get me as many leads as content that actually speaks out to different people. And so if I was to go through, and so yeah, you can look at you can examine the performance of all of your posts as and when they've been there. So if you go to show all posts, and this doesn't matter which version you have, but I can, so for example, this particular one, which showed a testimonial that a trainee sent me, that one only had eight kind of 8 times fewer kind of views, but I got 3 more conversations off the back of it because it presents credibility to my avatar, and people in my avatar wanted to get in touch. So it's about what you're trying to get. And funny enough, this one only had 862 impressions. Doesn't matter. I had three meetings booked off the back of that one post. So don't be worried about the content that you're creating, and it's more about who's watching it and are they the right people that are watching it.
Yeah, and Kamal, to your question, if you're looking at your post and your content, you notice the wrong people are looking at it, there's something amiss. Either your quality or the type of content you're using is not landing in the right way, or you're absolutely right, maybe your ICP or avatar is incorrect. So a bit of this is about trialing and error, testing the market, see what works. I've got a list of things that I know work really, really well for me. In particular, certain types of video content works brilliantly well, etc., etc., and certain types of subject lines work particularly well, etc. So So in answer to your question, test the market, try some different things out. If it lands well, then reuse that and build on that. If it doesn't land well, then rejig it. What you can do, again, using ChatGPT, using AI to support you this, you can upload your last 10 or 20 posts into ChatGPT. You can put in the analytics that you got from each of those posts, and then you can ask ChatGPT to analyze that and to tell you what was good about the post, what's in common about the ones that got the most analytics. Was it the timing? Was it the headline? Was it the length of the post, and so on and so forth? So there's lots of opportunity with this, but keep testing it to see what works best for your demographic and your market and your audience.
Love that. So yeah, I just wanted to wrap up content wise with two or three things that I would do right now if I was looking to build leads via LinkedIn. And so the first thing I would be doing is making use of my invite function. So we as recruiters certainly don't use the 125 LinkedIn invitations that you can get every week without fail to keep building your network of the right people. So as Kamar mentioned, if you're rejigging your ICP or avatar, making sure that if you set a daily task of 20 ads of relevant people from my network each and every day, that would be the first thing I would be doing to help build out my marketplace, because even if not all of them respond, that means that I'm getting 30, 40 extra people that are really relevant to my marketplace, kind of becoming part of my network that I'm getting up to. The second thing, making sure that you don't pitch slap people straight away, but certainly have a conversation with them about what their challenges and problems are, and ask them about them rather than saying, "Hey, I do this. I do recruitment. Please, 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 but please give me some jobs," which is what unfortunately too many people in our industry are doing, and I've seen it happen too many times. And funny enough, people are trying to pitch me in these particular things, and it won't work because people are too savvy. We're all too savvy. We all hate it. So we've got to make sure that we're asking them about them each and every time we write a piece of messaging, and understand what their problems, their challenges, their needs are. Because it's a bit like dating. If you just, if you're on a date and you're just saying, "Hey, this is me, I'm amazing, this is all I do," that date gets turned off very quickly. But if you're then going, "Actually, what are you into? Tell me about you," that creates a better conversation, and you can actually sell against that. But people generally tend to try and pitch themselves first, and pitching, like I said, I'm a sales trainer. I can happily say that doesn't necessarily work in this particular environment. Um, James, any other bits and pieces that you would be doing right now if you were these people trying to build out the market on LinkedIn?
No, to me, it's very, very simple. I take a big step back. I build out my avatars, my
Yeah.
ICPs. I build out a content plan that aligns to that. I get ChatGPT to be feeding me new content based on the stuff that we know is working on the algorithms every day to give me new thought starters and ideas and etc. I would be posting regularly, by the way. I'm a
Yes.
big fan of posting consistently and regularly, providing it's good. So I'm not one of these people who say you should post twice a week, or only post this or only post that. Post as much as you like. Don't waste time on LinkedIn. Post as much as you like, as long as it's good quality content, people will like it, and then the algorithms will kick in for you. So that would be my sort of main thing. It's
Yeah.
not complicated, this, but have rhythm, have cadence, and build up momentum. It's all about building up that momentum in that profile. I love it when people say to me, not in an arrogant way, but I see your bloody face everywhere I go on LinkedIn, James, and I love that, because actually that's the whole point of it, providing what I'm saying is reasonably sensible and not stupid. So
Yeah, totally. And I think your tone of voice is important. So I know with what James puts out, it's actually about being positive even in the face of adversity, and everything's around, the news is here to bring us down, but actually that if you're doing your things right, and James probably doesn't know that I see his content, or maybe he does, I don't know, but it's about your tone of voice and what you want your tone of voice to say about you. And if you can get more and more of that, and say that you are a good person operating in this space, and you've got the stats to back it up, that's what your personal brand needs to become. It's your personal brand is essentially what people are saying about you when you're not there. And
yeah.
so if you can create a positive personal brand, that's where you can start bringing it up. And look, I do rumbles around the kind of rumbles and trailblazers around creating the right personal brand, but that would take another 2 or 3 hours, and you've already heard enough of me today, guys, so you probably don't want to hear me anymore.
Absolutely. Well, I do actually, Bobby, because I think what you say, you speak a hell of a lot of sense, and you're without doubt one of the best trainers in the industry, with no shadow of doubt about that. So listen, I really appreciate your time today, Bobby, as always. I'm conscious it is time, so we're going to sort of wrap things up.
Yeah.
Please do reach out to Bobby. We'll make sure you've got his contact details as part of this today. So reach out to him and his team. You'll find him on LinkedIn, obviously. But follow him, follow his stuff, come to his sessions, get involved in some of his training, get him into your business to have a look at some of the stuff that he can do and help you with. And secondly, the follow-up from today, there's a lot of stuff that we talked about. Bobby, if you're happy, we'll share your slide deck with everybody, if that's okay today.
Yeah, I'll send it over to you guys. Yeah,
fantastic.
Totally.
That's been great. And I'll also make sure that I've got 4 things on my list. I'll send out to those of you who've sort of given me the thumbs up, the GPT cheat sheets, the social scaling outreach program that we built. We'll give you some ideas about ICPs and avatars for you. And I'll also send you that sort of cheat sheet guide about your profile settings to make sure you've got that all set up properly as well. So hopefully you'll have everything in there to give you a nice process to sort of follow and go from there. Other than that, thank you so much for being part of it today, Bobby, as always. Thank you for everyone who's joined us today. Hope you found it useful. If you're not a member of the Recruitment Network, come and join, come and get involved. This is the stuff we do every single day with all the members all day long, etc. So we'd love to welcome you into the team, into the community. And I'm sure our team will speak to you about that. Otherwise, please share this on social media. Share it on LinkedIn if you've had a good day today and a good time today. And we'll see how good your algorithms really are. And we'll look forward to catching up very soon. Thanks, everyone. Take care. And that's a wrap for this episode of the TRN podcast. Thank you for listening. And make sure you grab the free episode toolkit. All the links are in the description. And click follow in your podcast app so you can get notified of our next episode. If you want to get more out of your business and your people, then please unlock 30 days from our platform, TRN World, for free. And help yourself to all our training content, our guides, our templates, and peer insights. You can get started at trnworld.com/trial. And finally, if you found this episode of the TRN podcast of use, please share it with your network and tag TRN on any socials with your takeaways. Otherwise, message us directly if we can help in any way. We do reply to every question. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on the next TRN podcast.